let me break this down into two parts. Okay, first, the Y-intercept. That's pretty easy to find, right? What is the Y-intercept for this equation? The Y-intercept is when x is 0. So when x is 0, what happens to these first two terms in standard form? When you plug a 0 in, they become 0. So what is the Y-intercept? 32. Okay, so that should be pretty easy to find. Okay, vertex form is the harder one. So I'm going to jump down to the intercept form. Okay, how could you find the intercept form of this graph? Any ideas? The intercept form is simply what? Standard form. So when you're looking, standard form means it's written as a polynomial. And on your calculator, that relates to the expand command. And what does intercept form? Now, this isn't slope intercept form. We're not dealing with a linear equation here. Okay, but in a quadratic equation, the intercept form is written as what? Not a polynomial, but as factors. Okay, and so again, the command on your calculator that relates to that is factor. So you can come and find this intercept form pretty easily just by entering this equation into your calculator. And now, if you are going to, again, you have a couple choices for using this. Okay, let's say we want to enter this in our graphing portion of our calculator. Okay, so if you hit green diamond F1 to access the Y editor, we could write our equation exactly as it appears. So 4x squared minus 24x plus 32. Hit enter. And so now anytime I refer to y1, okay, I'm talking about this function. Okay, so I could look at my graph. So green diamond F3. If I look at my graph, it's going to confirm for me a couple things. So I can see where my vertex is. So I can actually answer that question right now if I want to. Okay, I'm going to wait on it for just a second, then I'll come back to the graph to verify. Okay. I could identify my Y-intercept. Let's see if I can check it on here. So choose value. So F5, the math tab. Choose value. And you can see right here, it's already when the x-coordinate is 0, the y-coordinate is 32. Again, that's real straightforward. I just want to confirm that you can check it on your calculators. Okay. Now, the intercept form and the x-intercepts, you can kind of see right here, where do you anticipate your x-intercepts are going to be? Looks like the furthest to the left is at what x-coordinate? 2, and the one furthest to the right is 4. So that's probably where they're going to be. Okay, but let me show you a way to check these and access these on your calculator. Once you enter an equation in your editor, your Y editor, you can access that equation anytime by choosing whatever Y number it fell under. So do you remember if I wanted you to evaluate y1 or this equation with the value 1? You can just use function notation and evaluate it, right? Well, if you just want to repeat your function and not have to retype it every single time, instead of having this x be replaced by a 1, as in the function notation, just leave it as an x. If you leave that as an x and you hit enter, it accesses your actual function. Now, let me show you why this might be useful. In order to find the intercept form, we basically are looking to factor this. So if I choose factor under the algebra tab, and then I just type in, leave it as just this command, y1 of x, the function notation y1 of x, and I hit enter, it's going to give me the factored form of this equation. So my factored form, right in intercept form, is going to be y equals, and I can just copy what I have, 4 times x minus 4 times x minus 2. Okay, and again, what this confirms for me or tells me is my x-intercepts. My x-intercepts are going to be the values that give you zeros in these factors. So a value when x is 4 gives me a 0 or an x-intercept, and the value when x is 2 gives me an x-intercept. Each of those give me zeros inside the factors. And so again, that confirms what we checked with on our sketch or on the graph of that. Okay, here's where this might be useful. Okay, if you have another problem where you're dealing with a different equation here, so let's say we needed to type in another equation, and let's just say that equation is x squared minus 4x plus, actually let's go, minus 5. Okay, so let's say this is our other equation. Well, by having this factor y1 of x entered, what you could do to factor that expression is simply change it to y2. Or if you have a third one, y3. It just allows you access to those very quickly and easily. And so it might be useful to work in it that way. Just enter the equation in the y editor and then call on it anytime by using y1 of x. Okay. All right, regardless, we are going to have to do the vertex form by hand. Okay? And this is the second part, and the part that I wanted to go over with you guys. Okay? If you're manipulating the vertex form by hand, what you're going to do, if you recall from the time before break, is we're going to take our equation from standard form. So you need to put it in standard form first if it's given in a different form to begin with. And then you're going to group your first two terms together and remove whatever the leading coefficient is. So basically I'm going to take this equation, I'm going to factor out my leading coefficient, 4, and then I'm just going to group these two terms. So when I remove a 4 from 4x squared, I'm left with just an x squared. When I remove a 4 from negative 24x, I'm left with negative 6x. And now I'm going to leave a space, and my plus 32 is going to remain where it is. And now I leave that space because I'm going to complete the square on that. Again, you may have to refer to your notes on this if you don't recall it. Okay, but completing the square involves taking half of this b term's coefficient, half of the first degree term's coefficient. So half of negative 6 is negative 3, and we're going to square that value. So negative 3 squared is plus 9. Okay, so this is how we can complete the square. In order to balance this equation, I need to undo this plus 9. Now, can I just put a negative 9 on the outside? Do you remember why you can't just put the negative 9 here? This isn't just 9, it's actually 9 times 4. So you have to think of that multiplication, that distribution. So 4 times 9 is 36. So really what I did is I added 36 to the right side of this equation that wasn't there to begin with. So in order to balance it and undo it, I need to subtract that same value on that same side. I'm just going to do it on the outside of my grouping symbols. So if I subtract a 36 on the outside, I've now maintained the balance of this equation. And it allows me to write the vertex form. Okay, and I completed the square in order to rewrite this as a binomial square. And the two terms of my binomial are x and then half of this b term. So x and a negative 3. And then when I combine my terms out here, positive 32 and a negative 36 gives me negative 4. So here is my vertex form. And so according to this form, yeah.
How did you find the 36 term?
I took the value when I completed my square right here, the negative or the positive 9. I didn't just add a 9 to this equation that wasn't already there. I added 9 times whatever the coefficient is. So 9 times 4 was 36. So really what I did is I put a 36 in here that wasn't already there. So I have to undo it by putting a minus 36. That's going to undo what I did. You're just doing it at different parts of the equation. Henry, was that your question as well? Okay. And so according to this, the whole advantage of vertex mode is your vertex can be identified. The x-coordinate of your vertex is whatever value of x would give you a 0 in here. So what's the x-coordinate of our vertex? 3. And then our y-coordinate of the vertex is whatever this value on the outside is. So 3, negative 4, which means your axis of symmetry is the equation, the vertical line equation, x equals whatever the x-coordinate is, 3. Okay, and again, we can come back to look at the graph of this. Is the vertex going to be 3, -4? And the way I can confirm that is I can use the Math tab F5. Is my vertex going to be a maximum or minimum for this? Since it opens up, it's going to be a minimum. And I just need to pick, again, lower and upper bound. So easiest thing to do, just pick all the way to the left, all the way to the right of your screen. And it tells you what the lowest point is. The lowest point is 3, -4. So it confirms that my vertex is correct.